You're
But
fine.
I'll say that it's funny when you talk about other people's money. I wasn't able to get access to a lot of other people's money. When I first started my business, I had to use my money, and but I will say I agree with you 100%. About not quitting your job. I'm not saying that you should never do it, right? It's up to you to decide when you're in the position.
To be calculated.
Right, be calculated about it. Don't just go to one seminar and get super inspired and then go tell your boss to kiss your ass tomorrow, because that may not work out well for you. And I've seen it not work out for people, right? But what you got to do really when you think about it is when you start a business, it comes down to your ability to use capital that you have at available to you to generate income and to generate resources. And so the first thing I would say is before you make it your goal to become a millionaire, try to become a thousandaire. And a thousandaire means, can you make an extra $1,000 a month? You'd be amazed. You would be stunned at how much your quality of life could improve by just making an extra $1,000 a month. And it's not overwhelming. You're not feeling like you got to go and start a $1 billion company. You're just making enough extra money where money's not an issue for you anymore. And you may find that that's enough. $1,000 or $2,000 extra a month may be enough. You may not have to go out and live the millionaire dream and quit your job and everything. You just may want to have options. And so I can't tell you whether it's better or worse for you to work for other people or work for yourself, but I can tell you that you're almost always better off when you have more options. So if you make that extra $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month, what you find is that, I remember when I used to try to figure out, when you're working through your budget and you're going through and thinking about what you're going to cut so you can save more money. Well, I found that when I found a way to make an extra $1,000 a month, I didn't have to cut anything anymore. I had $1,000 a month I could put right into savings and keep my same lifestyle. That was enough for me. At that point, I was happy. Everything else was gravy. So the second thing I would say is when you're building your business, you got to look at what your resources are. When you're working a full-time job, your most scarce resource is your time. Now, the limitation that you have as an African-American, I believe, is that we are trained to always exchange our time for money. So when you run out of time, you think you can't make any money. But actually, I've seen people do this. Let's say they take a class on entrepreneurship. They learn all the ins and outs of running a business. And then they join a club and they're interacting with other entrepreneurs who are doing the same thing, thinking the same thing. Well, they did. I've seen them where they didn't quit their job. And they simply laid out the plan of what they wanted. And then they hired someone who had free time to go and do the things that they needed done while they were at work all day. So I used to do that.
You're on my notes. You're in my notes.
Oh, well, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to be quiet.
I just wrote that down.
Well, I'm gonna be quiet on that, Nikki, because I want you to talk about it. But my first hire, the first person I ever hired was my first assistant. Her name was Shantae. And that was the best hire I ever made because I was working a full-time job for about 6 years after I hired her because she was technologically competent and I paid her by the hour and she was able to help me implement things that I didn't have time to implement. So what we would do is we'd have regular meetings and I'd say, I want to get this done, this done, this done, and that done. And sometimes she would be better at it than I would be. And she understood things that would take me hours and hours to figure out. So I'd say, look, rather than me sitting down and figuring all this out, I'm going to pay you for what you know and allow you to go get that done. And I can still go to work and bring in money. So that's, so I don't think quitting your job just because you decide you want to start a business. I don't even know if it's a good idea most of the time. Some of you may have a job that you don't hate. Like I like being a professor. It wasn't a terrible job. I just didn't want to work for the employer that I had. But it's actually, Nicole loves being an attorney. So don't think that a job that you have is necessarily a bad thing. But it's only a bad thing to me if you're trapped. That's the key idea. You never want to be trapped. You always want to have options and you always want to be financially secure at the end of the day. Those are the most universal recommendations we can make to you that we know will apply to everybody that's in this class. Nicole?
Oh, I completely agree. So as far as when I say don't quit, I've had people that I know and people that I coach that just didn't have a plan. Like you said, they got a hair up their butt one day and like, told my boss I ain't coming in on Monday, and it's like, no. I am okay with taking risks. I quit, back in 2001, I was making like $50,000 and bonuses and all kind of stuff, and for